The album behind me is Cincinnati, Ohio by the band Wussy. This is their eighth record and their first in quite some time. Now, I got into Wussy back in 2014 or 2015. I was driving around Las Vegas, Nevada. I just interviewed for a job I was pretty excited about, and I was trying to convince myself to move there, and I did. That's a whole nother story. I lived there for a year, and Wussy, they kept me company. They were the band I rocked out to the most, probably turned up the most. I had a kick-ass condo that was really well insulated for rock and roll, and I did take advantage of that. And their album Attica and some of their other ones really got played a lot around that time. So what happened? I was listening to Sound Opinions, the rock and roll talk show out of Chicago, and they're doing their best of list for 2014, and they're talking about Attica, the band's fifth record, and they played Teenage Wasteland. Now, Teenage Wasteland is sort of the name that you call Baba O'Reilly when you hear it on the radio and you don't know what it's called yet, and you look for it in a record store. And I am one of millions of kids probably that have been gone looking for that song under the name Teenage Wasteland and can't find it. Well, they wrote a brilliant song talking about the transformative nature of rock and roll, how it can reach you anywhere, across an ocean from somebody who wrote it, how it can grab your heart and not let go and can inspire you to create your own band and make your own art. And I absolutely love that record, Attica. I ordered it from Shake It Records, which is a record store that puts out their albums. It's a record store and it's their label. And they're always super cool to deal with. They almost always include a nice note encouraging me to stop by when I'm there. And someday I would like to get to Cincinnati, Ohio. I've never been there. Certainly thought about it because it seems like wherever I move, I can't see Wussy. They don't come through when I live there. Certainly didn't come to Las Vegas when I was there. And then when I left San Francisco, they played like soon after. So I've gotten friends to go and they've had a great time, but I've never actually seen them live. But anyway, this is their brand new record. It's been about 6 years. They lost a member, tragically. John Earhart, their guitarist, steel guitarist, died, from what I understand, some pretty tragic circumstances. So it kind of put the brakes on Wussy for a while. And I think a lot of us, maybe the band members included, kind of wondered if they were going to ever come back and make another record. They played a lot of home shows or just, out of their bedroom or their living room during COVID, during lockdown. And I was able to catch a lot of those. And they would play some unreleased songs. They play a lot of covers. They play some old songs. Chuck and Lisa, who are the two co-vocalists, would sort of trade off songs, as they do on most records. Now, they've been around for quite a while. This is actually their eighth record. Their fifth was Attica, the one I got into. They formed from the ashes of Ass Ponies, which were a great college indie alternative rock band. Their hit, if you want to call it that, on college radio was Little Bastard off of Electric Rock Music. Peanut 93, I remember, also got some attention, or maybe it's just the one I liked. I liked that one a lot. I also really got into their album Some Sucker with a Flare Gun that came out, I think, in 2000 or 2001. Got into that one on a move. So yeah, there's something about moving and Wussy, or at least Chuck, that is sort of a pattern for me. But anyway, super happy to see this new record. And along with this record, there's two EPs. There's one for the single, came out today, The Great Divide. Lisa song, and is backed by two Chuck songs from, I believe they're outtakes from the last record, What Heaven Is Like. And then this one is really cool. It's Wussy Duo, Cellar Door. So Wussy Duo is Chuck and Lisa only. And I think sometimes they go under Wussy Duo so they can play house shows and, not have the expense or the inconvenience of sometimes having the whole band travel for things. But this is them playing around with a lot of electronic instruments, a lot of loops, drum loops, stuff like that, drum machines. And I absolutely love it. I mean, the man who walked around the world, I can't seem to get out of my head since I heard this. And supposedly there's yet more music coming from Wussy Duo, like a full-length record in early next year. But the album behind me, this is their first full-length since What Heaven Is Like in 2018. I wasn't sure what to expect. I've read very little about it. And I read that a lot of it was recorded actually before John died, and 2 songs have him on it. If that's a case, it certainly feels like subject-wise, like they were singing about stuff that they didn't know was going to happen, because the whole album sort of has this life and death kind of thing, especially in the first song, which I think was clearly written afterwards. But there's a sense of loss, a sense of depression, mental health issues, desperation. It kind of hangs over the whole album. It's not a very cheerful record, but at the same time, it's not a depressing record to listen to. It sounds very good. It's one of these records, when you have 2 vocalists, sometimes it can be a little alarming going from back and forth from one to the other, and they do that a lot because they have Chuck and Lisa singing, writing their own songs. This one, in a way, feels like the most cohesive of their the vocals. I mean, they're singing together a lot on this record. Their songs kind of merge, into each other, or mesh into each other, and I find the whole thing plays wonderfully and is over before I know it, and I want to play it again and again and again and again. Really great record, a little bit more mellow than we're used to with Wussy. I would not call this really a rock record, although it has some rockin' songs, especially Inhaler, the first song on the second side. It's songs like, for me, my favorites are probably, that first side, especially when you get to like something like Desperation AM, Disaster About You, and Sure as the Sun. And then I also really like at the end of the second side too, especially Days and Hours, and Chuck's song that closes it, Weaned is really growing on me. I think this would be a fine place to start Wussy if you're not familiar with Wussy. Also, of course, Attica would be too. But so good to have this band back. Amazing that they're putting out all this new material all at once. I mean, you wait for a long time for a band to put out a new record, and then you get a record and 2 EPs and another one on the way. Yeah, sign me up. I'm hoping that, that they're able to tour and that I'll get to see them, but I may have to go to Cincinnati, Ohio one of these days. This is also the band that Robert Christgau, the dean of rock and roll, calls the greatest American or the best American band, like current American band. Recently, I was doing a list of the best American bands, and I thought of Wussy after I did the list. Now, most of my bands that were bands that have been around forever and that we would all, in some way, collectively say, okay, I could see them being on the list. But if you're asking me for the best rock and roll bands that are around right now, these guys are definitely in my top 5. And I don't think it's hyperbole at all that Robert Christgau praises them as much as he does. These are just ordinary people living in Cincinnati, Ohio, with day jobs, making killer rock and roll and sticking with it through thick and thin. Relationship between the 2 of them that went bust quite a while ago now. Writing songs about that, writing songs about this recent tragedy, and being a part of people's lives, that in the same way that they talk about Teenage Wasteland reaching people from all over. They've reached me. I've never seen them live, but every single time they put out something new, I'm always right there. Thanks, everyone.